Welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. This episode is the Jon Jones versus Daniel Cormier pre-fight analysis video. We're going to be breaking down this fight. We're going to be answering your comments and questions all together. I'm going to be answering your comments and questions, throwing out your opinions. And before we get started, I first want to thank Tom Billier from Quest Nutrition for buying me and sending me a copy of The Toughest Man Who Ever Lived. If you guys haven't seen, I did an episode on this very book. This is a phenomenal book, a fun read. And also, one of you guys out there, Angelo, I want to thank you for your letter, very kind of you, and also for sending me a copy of this book. Thank you very much. It's not an easy book to find. For those of you who haven't heard about this book, it's a book about the life of Maeda, the man who trained the Gracies. It's full of historical facts and historical fiction. No real sources are cited. Not many sources are cited in this book. So a lot of people debate about the truth value of this book. So do I. I question a lot of things that this book says. Now, regardless if you like to read fiction or not, it's still a phenomenal read. And there is a lot of historical fact out there, okay, in this book. Now, you have to remember, when these men fought back in the day, there was no video cameras, there was no pictures, really, not much, very little documented proof of what actually happened in these great battles. But lots of hearsay, lots of talk. It's fun to read because all martial arts history is like this, Nowadays, we're filming all the fights and we're documenting and we're counting the statistics and the punches and the kicks. But back in Maeda's day, there was no filming. It was just two guys battling and then people just recanting the story as they saw it. And of course, memory is highly unreliable and people tend to exaggerate. So this book is full of inaccuracies, of course, but it's a very, very fun read, but also a very rare book. So I have 2 copies of this. Thank you guys very much for sending it to me. Much appreciated. And now I'm going to be answering your most popular comments and questions. This fight between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier is probably the most key light heavyweight battle to date. Why? Because I think if Jon Jones wins this fight, he will be considered the greatest light heavyweight in the history of UFC, without a doubt. I think he already is, but losing this fight would cost him that title. Definitely. And it would hand it over to DC. Okay, so there's a lot on the line on this fight. A lot of times we have title fights, but it's not for the greatest of that category of all time. This fight is not only for the light heavyweight title, it's also the winner of this fight will be considered, in my opinion, the greatest light heavyweight in UFC history. Now, we all know Chuck Liddell had an incredible string of victories, and he also put his stamp on that lightweight division. But I really believe that Jon Jones has surpassed him. So the title is up for grabs again. And if Jon Jones were to lose, it would be this fight. He's been gone a long time. What does all this time away have done? You guys are asking me in the comments, so I'll save it for when those questions pop up. But this is a historical fight. This is a huge fight. And whoever wins this fight, in my opinion, will be known as the king of the lightweight division for a very, very long time, regardless of what happens later on. Okay, so here we go. First question from you guys is from the Squid Owl. True or false? Most of Cormier's success in the first fight came from uppercuts in the clinch instead of wrestling. I rewatched their fight, and you're right. He did land a couple of uppercuts in the clinch. And if you guys don't know, Daniel Cormier is a phenomenal clincher in terms of Greco. He was a bronze medalist in the World Championships. Okay, so he does a lot of freestyle takedowns. What that means is he grabs the legs a lot. He takes people down with the legs. For those of you who don't know, Greco-Roman wrestling, you're not allowed to grab the legs. It's only upper body. Okay, now, Cormier didn't do any upper body takedowns against Jon Jones, but he did lock up with him. And if you ever wrestled a Greco guy, if you've ever had the pleasure of wrestling a serious Greco-Roman wrestler, a world-class Greco-Roman wrestler, they are phenomenal clinchers. Once you lock up with them, they're incredibly strong. It's such a grueling sport. You're always body to body, you're always squeezing, you're always clinching. It's a very, very effective sport in terms of building athleticism. Greco-Roman wrestlers are really high up there, in my opinion. So, did he do any takedowns? No. But did it contribute? Did he do any upper body takedowns? No. So he didn't use any Greco-Roman wrestling. But you're right. He did tie up Jon Jones and land a couple of key uppercuts. Now, in the first round, I still gave the first round to Jon Jones. It was a close round. I thought Jon Jones had jumped ahead early on, and then Cormier kind of closed the gap with those key uppercuts you're talking about. But I do believe very, very much that Jon Jones is going to be ready for it this time. I think he was surprised by the uppercuts in the first round, and I say that because if you look at Muay Thai, and Jon Jones is an excellent Muay Thai practitioner. You don't see a lot of dirty boxing where you grab the back of the neck and you uppercut. You don't see a lot of that. Why? Because you would get kneed and elbowed. And I think Jon Jones is going to make some key adjustments. I think he got caught with the uppercut because Jon Jones put his head down. And that's what I didn't like about Jon Jones' round number one. I think he did a great job in round number one, except for the fact that he ducked his head too much. And I think bobbing and weaving and slipping and stuff like that, it works, of course. You know, it's a legitimate boxing technique, but I wouldn't do that with a Daniel Cormier. Personally, me, I think you're kind of playing into Daniel Cormier's game if you put your head down in any way, shape, or form. You know, he's a great wrestler. He'll snap you down. He'll get to that front headlock, which he did partially in round number one against Jon Jones. So Jon Jones will be wise not to duck his head. I think he can avoid those uppercuts altogether. But you are right. The best strikes landed by Cormier in that round one was one right hand that he landed from a distance that I thought was really good. And those uppercuts were also excellent. So I agree with you. But something that can be fixed quite easily, I think, for Jon Jones. Next comment or question, we have Man Inyasui. Okay, does Cormier face a disadvantage due to him being overweight? I think what you're saying here is Daniel Cormier came from heavyweight to light heavyweight. So, yeah, I think so. To be honest, I really think Daniel Cormier looks best at heavyweight. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me there. I really believe, you know, if you look at his fight against Josh Barnett, if you look at his fight against Roy Nelson, if you look at his heavyweight fights, he was more precise. He was more clean. He was more powerful. He was more, his defense was sharper. He didn't get hit so much. You know, if you look at his fight with Gustafsson, he got hit a lot. If you look at his fight with Anthony Johnson, he got hit a lot. If you look at his fight with Jon Jones, Cormier got hit a lot. And I think that when you cut so much weight, it can kill your reflexes. It can kill that level of that energy, that vitality you carry with you in the octagon in your fight. And I think if you look at his fights in heavyweight, I mean, they were almost flawless in terms of skill and pace and defensive skill. I think that Cormier could have a very successful run at heavyweight. I think he should reconsider heavyweight. You know, I know that maybe one of the reasons why he went down to light heavyweight was because of Cain Velasquez being heavyweight champion, but he's no longer heavyweight champion, and I think that it wouldn't be crazy. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but it wouldn't be crazy if Cormier went back to heavyweight after this fight. Whether he wins or loses, I think he did a great job in heavyweight. And can be world champion heavyweight. Next comment and question. X Splasho. What is DC's best weapon and Jon Jones' best weapon? Well, Jon Jones' best weapon for sure is his Muay Thai. He has a phenomenal Muay Thai game. For those of you who don't know, I trained with Jon Jones for a long time before he went to Greg Jackson's and I have a bias towards Jon Jones. You know, everybody's going to be asking me who I think is going to win. I think Jon Jones is going to win. Making things fair, though, I have a very heavy bias towards Jon Jones. He's a very good friend of mine. I love the guy. He's a great fighter, and I've worked with him in the past. And I think he is the best. You know, I think he is the best light heavyweight without a doubt. Even though he is a friend of mine, people are gonna say, "Are you saying that because he's a friend of yours?" I think he's the best regardless, and I think his best asset is his striking, but his Muay Thai, not just his boxing. A lot of people. Or his knees or his kick, his Muay Thai game altogether. He uses the 8 limbs. If you guys don't know, Muay Thai is known as the art of 8 limbs, the knees, the elbows, the punches, and the kicks. And he blends them beautifully. A lot of people get really heavy on the punches and kicks. Some people get really heavy on the punches and knees. Jon blends all 8 weapons very, very beautifully. And, you know, some people, they're good with kicking just with one leg. Jon Jones kicks well with both legs. He knees well with both knees. He elbows well both sides. He switches to southpaw. He goes back to righty. I mean, he uses the art of 8 limbs extremely creatively, and he blends them in a variety of ways that I think is going to be, like it was in the first fight, too much for DC to adapt to. Now, when you have somebody like Jon Jones who's so diverse, you got to be able to handle all these different looks. And I think DC in their first fight. Um, he did well against Jon Jones to a certain degree, and then he started to fade. He started to fade because Jon Jones figured out what weapons work best against DC. So if you look at round one, Jon Jones was really working southpaw, and he was trying to switch back and forth and figuring out what weapons work best on DC. And I think he's gonna do the same thing in the second fight. Whatever DC is least comfortable with, and that's what Jon Jones is gonna put the pressure on. So Jon Jones has got a lot of weapons, and he throws them from different angles. He switches sides. He's going to figure out what DC is least prepared for, and he's just going to hammer him down with it. What's DC's best weapon? For sure his wrestling. I mean, he was he won the fourth place in Athens, if I remember correctly. He's a phenomenal wrestler. He's a great wrestler. I think blending his strikes with his wrestling is going to be his best approach. He's not as diverse as Jon Jones with the strikes. You know, he's mainly a puncher. He does throw a few kicks. DC is still mainly a puncher, I would say. But blending his wrestling with his punches, I think can get his offense going against Jon Jones. So that's my answer to you, my friend. Next one. Ricky Descartes. Why do you think DC got booed at the Unstoppable conference? Yeah, that's right. I did watch that conference. I just checked it out actually yesterday, and yes, I was surprised DC got booed. You know, he's been on TV a lot. He's an analyst. I think he's a very lovable analyst. I think people like him. I like to listen to him. I think he does a phenomenal job. But I was very shocked actually why people booed him. I have no idea. I was expecting people to boo Jon actually because of his the issues he's had outside the octagon. I thought people were going to be a little bit more rough on Jon than they were on DC. I have actually no idea, to be honest. I have no idea why people would boo DC. Maybe people are sympathetic to Jon's recovery, you know, his becoming sober, etc. And DC kind of kicked him a little bit, you know, for his problems outside the octagon. Maybe people didn't like that. I don't know. You guys would have to tell me. Leave it in the comments and questions. I'm actually quite interested why everybody was booing DC. You know, he seems to be a very loved public figure, but I was just as confused as you, Rick Descartes, Mr. Rick Descartes. I have no idea why you guys booed DC. So next one, Tanner Raven. What does Jon Jones need to do to defeat Daniel Cormier and vice versa? Well, Jon Jones needs to do what he did the last fight. He needs to break Daniel Cormier's stand-up. He needs to break Daniel Cormier's stand-up. He needs to put Daniel Cormier in a position where Daniel Cormier has to shoot. So if Jon Jones is winning the stand-up, Daniel Cormier is going to start to shoot. And Jon Jones is incredibly hard to take down. You know, I've trained a lot of great wrestlers, and Jon Jones is one of those guys who's incredibly, incredibly hard to take down, even for elite wrestlers. Even for elite wrestlers, you could put Jon Jones in a wrestling match with an elite wrestler, and that elite wrestler will have a hard time taking Jon Jones down. Jon Jones' wrestling defense is on par with anybody. And if he gets Daniel Cormier shooting, he's gonna hurt Daniel Cormier's energy reserves because he's so difficult to take down. Jon Jones is so hard to take down that Daniel Cormier is gonna work harder and harder to take down. Even if Daniel gets the takedown, I think Jon Jones will pop back up to his feet, and that'll just drain Daniel Cormier. If you guys don't know, I think personally Daniel Cormier, his weight cut takes a lot out of him. You know, that's my personal opinion. So if Jon Jones puts the hurt on him standing and forces Daniel Cormier to spend so much energy wrestling, he could probably finish Daniel Cormier. You know, that's the route to finish Daniel Cormier, in my opinion. I think Daniel Cormier is his weight cut drains him more than it does Jon Jones. That's just my opinion. I know Jon Jones looks a lot bigger and a lot taller, but he has a lanky body style. Daniel Cormier is thick and stout. And I think when you're thick and stout, you need that extra weight. You need that thickness. You know, you don't have the reach. That thickness is what does the job for you. And I think he had more at heavyweight. That's my opinion. So Jon Jones, break Daniel Cormier standing, and I think he'll unravel. As for Cormier, I think Daniel Cormier, what he needs to do, you know, in his last 3 fights, all he's done is really moving forward, marching forward. And if he gets hit, he still marches forward. He has a lot of heart. He has a lot of toughness, and he's game. You know, he's definitely game. But I think a smarter approach would be for Daniel Cormier to just kind of stand outside, not stand in front of Jon Jones, moving laterally, of course, but always looking to go second. Now, sometimes when you're the smaller fighter and you have the lesser reach, you don't want to march forward, because when you march forward, you create a tempo. And the guy who's backing up is timing you, and you're going to walk into a shot. Now, if you saw their first fight, Jon Jones did exactly that. He went southpaw, he started circling, and as Daniel Cormier was coming forward, and without changing his rhythm, Jon Jones connected a beautiful left. He timed Cormier's his march. He timed Cormier's march, and he connected a beautiful left. He connected a beautiful left to the chin, and then he later connected a beautiful left to the body, straight left to the body. And then after that, he did a flying knee that almost hit Cormier, but you could see that Jon Jones was timing Daniel. He was timing him because Daniel was marching forward at a very predictable pace. Now, what I would suggest for Daniel to do is to counter Jon Jones. Go second. Let Jon Jones throw the first strike, and you throw your counter, because that way you get the taller man coming towards you, and then you go towards him, and that breaches the distance for you, instead of you always marching forward and the taller man circling and timing you. So in a fight, I like to be the one timing my opponent. I don't want my opponents timing me. I like to be timing them. I like my fighters to be timing them. I think Daniel Cormier should turn the tables. Instead of marching forward, wait, be patient. You have 5 rounds, and allow Jon Jones to make the first move, and you must counter him. But of course, to do that, you have to be an expert at counter striking. So in my opinion, don't close the distance on Jon Jones. Force Jon Jones to close the distance on you, and use your counters. Next one here, Taitran. Taitran, okay, nice. You probably need a new username. Okay. If you were DC's coach, what tips would you give him to deal with that whooping 12-inch reach disadvantage? Also, can you tell us how DC handled it in their last fight? In his last fight, DC fought Alexander Gustafsson, as you all know, and Gustafsson had that reach advantage. What did he do in that fight to mitigate that reach? He clinched a lot with Gustafsson. Yes, he did. But Gustafsson is more of a boxer than he is a Thai fighter. If you clinch with Jon Jones, you're dealing with a lot of knees, elbows, punches, etc. Spinning elbow attacks, etc. If you clinch with Gustafsson does throw knees. He hurt Cormier. If you guys remember, he hurt Cormier bad with one knee up against the fence. I mean, he has some Muay Thai, but he's mainly a boxer. So clinching is the way I believe Cormier really dealt with that, and he got some key takedowns that kind of softened Gustafsson up. But in my opinion, that approach is not going to work with Jon Jones. Jon Jones has a different style. How's he going to deal with that 12-inch reach advantage? Well, we all know Jon Jones likes to kick, and I would suggest Cormier catches one of those kicks. Get good at catching kicks. Take that element away from Jon Jones, and then you're going to have to deal with the knees, elbows, and punches. But the 12-inch reach advantage is something real, definitely. And like I said before, counter your way inside. Don't focus so much on just marching Jon Jones down. But in my opinion, DC, it's a very different reach advantage when it comes to Jon Jones as compared to Alexander Gustafsson. What he did with Alexander, I don't think will necessarily work with Jon Jones. Jon Jones fights a very different manner. And plus, Jon Jones switches to southpaw. Closing the distance on a southpaw can be very different than closing the distance on a right-handed fighter. If you guys remember, Anthony Johnson also turned southpaw on Cormier when they were fighting. And he caught Cormier with a key head kick in round 1, which I thought really, really damaged Cormier. That head kick was something. And it seems that DC has a problem with southpaws, just a little bit. So I think Jon Jones is going to test out the southpaw range. And that 12-inch reach advantage is going to be something serious to overcome. Next, that tank. Does weight training decrease your punching power? Nick Curson says it does. Now, Nick Curson, if you guys don't know, is a gentleman from Speed of Sports. The Speed of Sport. He also trains, I believe, Rafael Dos Anjos. So the Speed of Sport, they take care of Dos Anjos' training. And if you guys are not familiar with this training system, it hails from the Marv Marinovich system. Marv Marinovich was one of the greatest, one of the top trainers in football. He trained his son. If you guys don't know his son, His son was considered at one point in time the perfect quarterback as he was coming up the ranks. He was the first draft in the NFL, and he was considered like a Robo QB. I think what they called him was the Robo QB. He was like this perfect quarterback. His father, Marvin Marinovich, trained him when he was a child, and he trained him in a very particular system. They didn't use weight training. No heavy weights, no squats, no deadlifts, no bench press. We've all been watching Jon Jones doing all these type of lifts. And by the way, we're going to get to that question, how is that going to affect this fight? Jon Jones, as many of you know, has been doing a lot of lifting. Now, Marv Marinovich or Nick Curson, their system is completely on the other end. They don't believe in any of that. They think that what Jon Jones is doing, that heavy squatting, that heavy deadlifting, that heavy bench pressing, all that stuff is going to slow you down. Now, if you guys are not aware, we've also worked with this system. George St. Pierre also worked in this system. I actually hired or sought the help of, I should say, of Gavin McMillan, which is another disciple of Marv Marinovich, the sports science lab. When George got injured towards ACL, I really did a lot of research on how to recover and how to rebuild George's knees, etc. And I fell upon the Marv Marinovich system, the SSL Sports Science Lab system, or the same kind of system they have at Speed of Sports. Now, this system uses no weight training, and the backbone of it is the experiences. It comes from the experience of Marv Marinovich. Marv Marinovich was a trainer in the NFL, and he was looking at the list of all the best NFL players, the first string guys, and the B string, the C string, the third string, second string, third string, and he was like, look, all the best lifters, he realized, because as you know, NFL does a lot of squatting, etc. All the best lifters were the third string guys or the second string guys. How come none of the first string guys were the best lifters? And he said to himself, well, it must be because it doesn't translate to the field. Now, he took it upon himself to try try to see if that correlation would translate if he took them off the weights. So he started taking football players off the weights. These second string guys, these third string guys, he took them off the weights and gave them more of a ballistic type system where well, if you guys don't know, okay, so I'll give you guys a quick brief rundown on this, and this might be a little bit technical for some of you, but when you're doing bench press, okay, you take the weight off the rack and you're benching it down, and then you're benching it back up. When you're benching it back up, you're using your chest muscles to propel the weight forward, you're using your triceps to propel the weight forward, and your bicep only is made to retract your arm. So your bicep's not on right now. So you're pushing that barbell, you're pushing that barbell. But what happens, so that the barbell doesn't fly out of your hands, because once you start pushing that barbell, you create momentum, your brain turns on the bicep. So your brain turns on the bicep to slow that barbell down. So you have your triceps pushing forward, and you have your biceps pulling back, just so the barbell doesn't fly out of your hands. And then you have this antagonistic relationship, the triceps pushing forward, the biceps pulling back. It's kind of like having your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. So according to many of these type of trainers, they're saying that, look, you're teaching your brain to turn the brakes on and the gas on at the same time. So you're pushing, imagine you're in your car, you're pushing the gas pedal, you're pushing the brake pedal, and you're just killing your car. And he says, look, we don't want none of that. We want to, in sports, you don't want to turn the brakes on when you're running, when you're punching, when you're tackling, or whatever it is you're doing. You want to take the brakes off and you want to press on the gas, right? So the term ballistic means, imagine I was bench pressing and throwing the weight out of my hands. I was just chucking it as far as I can. That's ballistic. So you're turning the bicep off completely. You're telling the brain, hey, I don't want to just raise this and control it. I want to throw it as far as possible. So then you'd be doing something more, an exercise that would translate more to the field. Okay, so when you're running, you don't want to be slowing yourself down. You don't want the antagonistic muscles. So for those of you who are not aware, when you're moving your arm, your tricep extends your arm, your bicep retracts your arm. Okay, so your tricep only does one thing, it extends your arm. Your bicep retracts your arm. So this relationship, you want to be able to extend your tricep without your bicep working. So you want to create this ballistic relationship where you can explode through emotion. Now, if you look at SSL, Sports Science Lab, or Speed of Sport, they use these these devices. I forget the name actually, but it's ballistic. It's all throwing the machine. You're throwing this object. You're throwing it. You're not holding on to it. So according to Speed of Sports Science Lab, doing stuff like deadlift, doing stuff like squat and bench press slows you down. It makes you operate like a tow truck. The best example, the best way I can word it to you is Louis Simmons' example. Louis Simmons says, look, I want to train you to be a Ferrari. I don't want to train you to be a tow truck. Now, when you lift a deadlift, if you guys don't know what a deadlift is, it's when you lift a barbell off the ground, okay? It's very slow motion. It's very slow. You're operating like a tow truck. Now, there's a lot of scientific data that says that deadlifts will slow you down. Absolutely, 100%. They have taken people that do deadlifts. They have taken people who do deadlifts versus people who do plyometrics. And whose vertical is higher? Of course, the people who do plyometrics, the people who do Olympic lifting, explosive lifting. So the deadlifters, the people who do slow weightlifting, they don't jump as high as people who do, of course, plyometrics, people who do explosive jumps, ballistic work, Olympic lifting. The deadlifters are 100% have a lower vertical jump. Now, vertical jump is your ability to go from 0 to 60. You talk about a car that goes 0 to 60 in this many seconds. That's what the vertical jump expresses in sports. Okay, now maybe some people are going to argue, hey, that doesn't correlate to the field. Maybe so. Well, what we do know is you become less explosive. Why? Because the control groups, when we took people, when these researchers took people and tested their vertical jump, people who don't even train, they had a higher vertical jump than people who did deadlifting. So this says a lot, So if you do deadlifting, if your vertical jump is, I don't know, whatever, like 40 inches, and you do deadlifting for months and months, your vertical jump will lower. It'll get lower. So what does that say about Jon Jones's punching power? Is it going to be lower or higher? Now, this is a bit of a trick question because if you're an expert trainer, you know that you can convert that strength by doing plyometrics later on. So if you do slow training, you raise your deadlifts, you raise your squat, and then you do plyometric training later on in your periodization. You can convert that strength into power. Power is strength over time. Okay, so you have strength and then you have strength over time. Strength over time is power. So I agree with Nick Kirsten. This is a very important question for all of you training out there. If you're training in sports that require explosiveness, be careful not to do too many slow techniques. Now, I believe in a blend of the two. I think a marriage of the two is the best. I believe in deadlifting, and I also believe in plyometrics, and I believe in what Nick Kirsten does, and I believe in what SSL does, and I believe in what Marv Marinovich does. But I believe if you go too much into one system, you can plateau. So if you're doing a lot of plyometrics and you do a little bit of deadlifting, it can jolt you back into a new level of explosive training. Now, there's a lot to know about explosive training. I've given you guys it in a nutshell. Of course, there's Louis Simmons' group who uses submaximal lifts. They don't lift their max. They do these slow lifts, but they turn them into fast lifts. Okay, so there's a lot to know, and this is not the purpose of this episode, but it is an important topic because Jon Jones has been doing so much lifting and he's added so much muscle that this can definitely make a difference in the fight. Definitely. If he did a lot of heavyweight deadlifting and squatting and didn't convert it into explosive explosive plyometrics later on, which I'm sure he has. He has expert trainers. I'm not in the least bit worried. But if by any chance he didn't, yes, he will be slower. Yes, his punching power will go down. Yes, he will get tired. Absolutely. If you do a lot of deadlifting and then you go and you spar MMA, your cardio will go down. Why? Because you're asking your body to get good at clinching for a few seconds. Clinch really, really hard for a few seconds. Don't forget, if you build endurance on one side, you're losing conditioning on the other. If you're building endurance, you're losing strength. They're mutually exclusive. It's always a cat and mouse game. You want to build the two. It's quite difficult. You can build the two, absolutely, but every time you work on strength, you're losing a little bit of endurance, and then you build your endurance and you're losing a little bit of strength. Lifting them both at the same time takes a lot of training. So it's possible, absolutely. There are ways to go about it. Did Jon Jones shoot himself in the foot with heavy lifting? It's not impossible, but I think his trainers are wise enough, smart enough to know that he needs to go through a different phase of plyometrics and ease off on the lifting. Now, I've seen guys do heavy lifting close up to their fight and it shoot them in the foot. I'm sure Jon Jones and his crew are a lot wiser. I doubt they will make this mistake. Nick Curson, I think, has a beautiful system, and I'm pretty sure that they're implementing more of the Nick Curson type training closer to the fight. John Baker, do you think DC will have a more wrestling-oriented approach in this fight? And if so, do you think he can keep Jon Jones on his back for long? I honestly do not think that Jon Jones can be held down by anybody unless he is hurt. Daniel Cormier will have to hurt Jon Jones really badly. If you don't hurt Jon Jones really badly, if you don't fatigue him, if you don't break him, he's going to bounce back up to his feet. He's very good at getting up to his feet, and I've trained with Jon for a long time. He is a very difficult guy to take down, a very difficult guy to hold down. You must break him. You must injure him first, or he will not yield. He will get up to his feet. Next one here, the flying armbar. Who do you think are the most difficult matchups for both Jon Jones and DC outside this fight? Example, who is the fighter with the best chance of beating Jones, and who is the fighter with the best chance of beating DC? I would have to say at this point it's Alexander Gustafsson. Anthony Johnson, you must put him in the mix, but I believe that Anthony Johnson, he's the toughest guy to fight in round one. He is the toughest round one for anybody in that division. He can put anybody out in round one quite easily, anybody. But if you get past round one, he's started to show some weaknesses in round one. I think Gustafsson is more durable. I think his long reach gives a problem to both Jon Jones and DC. And I think Gustafsson learned a lot from his war with Jon Jones, and I think he learned a lot from his war with DC. So I think Gustafsson is the second hardest guy after these two. These two guys are up there. Then it's Gustafsson personally. But again, I'm talking about stylistically. Their matchup stylistically. I think the reach of Gustafsson really bothers Jon Jones. And I think DC can weather the storm of an Anthony Johnson, which he did and which he showed. He weathered the storm of Anthony Johnson. And I gave that first round to Anthony Johnson. I did. But he could weather that storm. He's tough enough. He's durable. So the guy with the best chance to beat these two is, in my opinion, Gustafsson. Speed and solitude. True or false? Jones has an edge on the mental game because he always finds a way to get Cormier's panties up in a bunch. This is speed of solitude. That is a very, very interesting observation. I do agree that Jon Jones is inside Cormier's head. I do believe that. And I hate to say it, I like Daniel Cormier. I think he's a phenomenal guy. I think he's a great guy, great athlete. But Jon Jones, I know him quite well, okay? And I can tell you something. He is extremely, extremely mentally strong. I mean, when we used to train together, we used to always taunt each other, me and him. And of course, we all love Jon Jones. Everybody in the gym absolutely loves Jon Jones. He was one of the funnest guys to have in the practice room. I would tease him. He would tease me. We would insult each other in a very loving and amicable way. And I remember having dinner once with Jon Jones. We were eating a huge sushi meal together, and we were just taunting each other back and forth. And we ended up wrestling for hours after we went in the basement. We wrestled for hours. We're at a friend's house. We wrestled. That's just Jon Jones. He is a dude's dude. He's just a friendly, happy-go-lucky dude. But we're gonna razz each other. And he's a very competitive guy. Very competitive guy. Me and him one time had a swimming. We did a race in the pool once, and I think I beat him in the race. He thinks he beat me. And I was helping him cut weight for the Machida fight. And we were in a pool, in a sauna, and there was a pool. And he wanted to re-race me the night before his Machida fight. His weigh-in. So it was the night before the weigh-in. He wanted to race me again to prove that he beat me like months ago. He beat me months ago in this other race. And I was like, John, you're cutting weight. If I beat you, you're going to complain that you were cutting weight. And if you beat me and you pull a muscle, you're gonna lose your fight on Saturday. He was like, no, let's do this race. Let's do this race. That's Jon Jones. He's so mentally strong. He's willing to do to put his body through the effort of trying to win a swimming race 2 days before a title fight. I mean, that's just Jon Jones. He grew up in competition, just like Cormier, but he grew up with a different outlook. He is very, very mentally tough. Nothing will bother Jon. Nothing Daniel Cormier will say will make Jon Jones fight differently on fight night. I think Jon has gotten under the skin of Cormier, and it will make Cormier fight differently, which is not a good thing. I think Cormier should handle this like business. He shouldn't get so emotional. He shouldn't care what Jon Jones has to say. He should focus on how to win this fight, and that's it. But he's not. He obviously seems very angry with Jon Jones. He obviously seems very put off by Jon Jones. He actually personally doesn't like Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones doesn't care. All the back and forth to him doesn't bother him at all. And if you look at their first fight, when the referee told him to touch gloves, Jon Jones put up his 2 fists to touch gloves. Like, bygones be bygones. He doesn't care, even though after all the fighting and the actual physical fight they got into at the MGM, Jon Jones didn't care. He didn't care. He raised up his gloves. He wanted to shake hands, and that's Jon Jones. He can hate you 1 minute and then he's cool the next. To him, it's all a game. It's all fun and games. He does this all the time. It's fun. He's a sweet guy. He's a very loving guy. We do it all the time. We joke around all the time. It's nothing personal. But I think Cormier doesn't like that kind of stuff. I think the first time they met, Jon Jones, the first interaction Jon Jones and Cormier had was Jones kidding around with Cormier, telling him, "Hey, I think I can take you down." And Cormier took it seriously. And Cormier was like, "Hey, I don't know who you are. Why would you joke around with me?" But that's just Jon Jones. He's a very friendly guy. He's kidding around with you. If you came back at him and said, if Cormier came back at him and said, "In your dreams," or something like that, Jon Jones wouldn't take it personally. But Cormier would take it personally. So I think that's just a question of their personalities. Cormier doesn't like to kid around. He likes to be respected. And that's fine. That's his personality. But Jon Jones, you can insult him, you can kid around with him, he can take it. He can dish it out and he can take it. Jon Jones, no doubt about it, can dish it out and he can take it. It will not affect him on fight night. I mean, I don't know about Cormier, but Jon Jones grew up with bigger brothers that probably, beat him up and teased him a lot when he was young, and for him this is just playtime. So Jon Jones will fight regardless of whatever anybody says about him. He will fight perfectly. He will fight without any influence from what anybody tells him. He's excellent at shutting down anything negative. Next one here. Messy games. Can Cormier win this fight? If yes, how does he do it? Does Jon Jones come back with the same strategy? Of course Cormier can win this fight. Of course he can. If he lands a big shot, if he connects on the chin of Jon Jones, if he gets a few key takedowns and steals the round, if he hurts Jon Jones, if he breaks Jon Jones, which is not a very easy thing to do, tall order, he can win this fight. I mean, the man is an Olympian. The man is a bronze medalist. I mean, the guy is a killer. He has been trained his entire life for this moment. So he's a phenomenal athlete. He can rise to the occasion. It is going to be a very, 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 very difficult thing to do, to beat Jon Jones. But it is possible. Absolutely. Next one. That Mixon won. In the first fight, Jones jumped guard at the end of the round. His guard was easily passed by DC and ate several punches for it. Do you think the key to beating Jon Jones is putting max effort in takedown and putting him on his back? Well, if you put your max effort on taking Jon Jones down because you think he has a weak guard game, and I remember when he pulled guard, that was the end of the round. He was just trying to surprise DC. He just jumped guard to try to fish for a submission off his back, I think. I don't think that's going to be his strategy. I don't think he's going to do something like that early in the round. So DC would have to take him down. Now you're suggesting that DC put all his effort in getting Jon Jones down. I think that's a crazy mistake. If you put all your effort in taking Jon Jones down, you might blow all your gas. You might blow all your energy, and then you're a sitting duck because Jon Jones will pick you apart. I think a takedown has to be by surprise. You have to wait for the right opportunity. You cannot spend all your energy fishing for a takedown. It's a recipe for disaster. Now, even if he gets Jon Jones to his back, Jon Jones will still get up to his feet. You have to surprise him with a takedown. It has to be very energy efficient. If you go all in for the takedown and you don't get it, you gambled everything. And it's not an easy thing to do. Takedowns work by surprise. It's not just a technical issue. There's a timing issue there. So if you make it too evident, if you're working too hard for a takedown, you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. So I have to disagree with you. That Mixon won, Mr. That Mixon won. I thank you for your comment and your question, but and you go on to say here that you're picking Cormier, and I think it's not a crazy pick. You know, I think I'm picking Jon Jones, but Cormier can do it if he blends his striking with his takedowns. If he blends them together, not if he shows his hand too early. He'll waste his energy and he'll get taken out. Lap TBD Bubam. Okay, another one of you with a need to change username. You guys will pick the worst username sometimes. Will they talk to one another in the cage, and how will that conversation go? Yes, I think if Jon Jones gets a lull in the action or something, he's going to start talking. I don't think Cormier will start talking too much, maybe. But if the talking starts, it'll come from Jon Jones. And again, I think he'll be using it the way Ali did. You know, famously used it against George Foreman. He'll be getting in the head of Cormier, trying to get Cormier to press forward and spend his energy and walk into elbows, walk into knees. I think he's just going to insult him. He's going to call him names. He's going to heckle Cormier, and just have a good time insulting him. You know, I think Jon Jones will feed off that, and the more Cormier marches forward, the more he's going to walk into those strikes. So I think it would be wise for Cormier to shut all that out, shut all the talk out, shut all the emotions out, shut out all the beef, shut out all the anger. Just focus on your technique, countering Jon, changing your rhythm, being unpredictable. That's the way you're going to win, not by getting angry and pressing forward. I think Cormier will be wiser this time around. He's defended his title. That comes with a new level of wisdom, I think. And I think Cormier will be smarter this time around and should just keep it professional. Next one here. John McBride. Jon Jones had a layoff. Could this affect his performance? And is the ring rust, a real thing or just a myth? I think ring rust is a real thing. I know Dominic Cruz says it's not a real thing, only if you believe in it. And I think that was a very potent and important thought for him. I think it was a wise thought for him to cultivate. But is it true? No, it's not true. Now, in his heart of hearts, I think Dominic Cruz knows it's true, of course, but that kind of thinking didn't help him. So he went into a kind of thinking that did help him. So I applaud him for that. I think it's a brilliant move, and I would have done the same thing. You can't focus on things that are not good for you. Not when you're going into fight mode. So, is ring rust a real thing? Cage arrest, whatever you guys want to call it. Yes, it's a real thing. You know, try not riding your bike for a few years, or try not I don't know, whatever it is you do. Try not sparring. Let's say you do jiu-jitsu, okay? Try not rolling for a month, 2 months, and then go back to rolling. You're gonna be like, oh, I'm off. My timing's off. Now, of course, he's practicing in the gym, but when you put on the real little gloves, you know, the 4-ounce gloves, and you're hitting for real, and you're in front of the crowd, it might take some time to adjust. But of course, Jon Jones has had so much experience in the octagon that I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal for him, but there can be some ring rust. And again, we never know until the fight goes on, but the more experienced the fighter is, the less ring rust matters, in my opinion, in my observation. So I don't think it'll be too bad for Jon Jones, especially because he's so mentally strong already. So I'm not too worried about it, but it is a real thing. I've seen it, in my opinion, be a factor in other fights. Okay, guys, we're rounding up. I'm going to be doing just maybe one or two more here. AJ Thompson. Hi, Firas. You are considered one of the, if not the best MMA coach in the world. What kind of strategy would you implement with DC and then with Jon Jones in this fight? I like what Jon Jones did in the first fight. Go southpaw, use the kicks, use the knees, use the elbows. Find what Cormier is not ready for. Use those 8 limbs. Keep pressing takedowns when you see them. Make Cormier have to worry about everything. Let Cormier march towards you. Let him walk towards you. I love what Jon Jones did in the first fight. What I didn't like that he did is he ducked down. He did a little bobbing and weaving. Things you don't have to do against a shorter man. You do not have to do that against a shorter man. Now, if Jon Jones didn't do any bobbing and weaving or slipping, I think he would have had an even better round. So that's what I would change for Jon Jones. For DC, I think he's becoming too obvious with his striking. It's kind of always the same rhythm and always the same combinations. And then he, you know, of course he has a beautiful wrestling. So then he goes for a takedown. I think it's starting to become a little too obvious. That formula worked really well. It's time to spice things up. Can he throw a different kind of attack? Can he do something different? Can he fake the takedown into uppercut? Can he do a sweeping kick? Can he add stuff? Can he add more variety to keep Jon guessing? Because I think the second time around, you know, Jon has been watching Cormier's fights. He knows what to expect. With Jon Jones, you don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to do a push kick to the face? Is he going to do a spinning elbow? Is he going to do a double leg flying knee? I mean, his variety is greater. I think DC needs to cultivate more variety for this fight. Next one here, Eric likes to skate 95. Do you believe Jon will try and win from the outside, or try to take Cormier down and out wrestle the wrestler? I think he's going to use his striking to break Cormier, and when he sees Cormier hurting, or when he sees Cormier very focused on Jon's striking, he'll find that opening for the takedown and swoop down and do it. And I think it's a personal challenge for Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones loves to be able to say that he took down an elite wrestler. You know, I think he loves to do that. So I think Jon Jones will do a takedown. Even if he doesn't need it, he'll do it. You know, I think it's just part of his personality. Mauricio Leon Ruiz, how long will this fight last? I think this fight probably goes into the championship rounds, and very likely a decision, because Cormier is so durable and Jon Jones is so durable. But I wouldn't be surprised if a submission were to happen, and it would come from Jon Jones' side. I think we've seen Cormier's submissions. It's mostly rear naked choke. I think that's the only submission he's ever scored. I think he only has 2 or 3 submissions, and they're all rear naked choke. Of course, all his rear naked chokes came from him first beating the man down and just the man exposing, his opponents exposing their back to him and grabbing the neck. But Jon Jones has a intricate choking game. He's very good at front headlock, and he's very good at guillotines, different type of guillotines, 10-finger guillotines, high elbow guillotines, Mackenzie teens. He's very good at those type of chokes. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cormier shoots and gets caught with a guillotine. Those are always a possibility with Jon Jones. He's excellent with the choke. He's excellent with the front headlock control. He's very wise with that. Excellent. So if I do see the fight finishing, I see it happening in the later rounds by choke. Also, I could see Jon Jones finishing with a cut with those elbows. If he gets Cormier down to the ground, those big heavy elbows, they can finish everyone. So if the fight finishes, I probably will see it from Jon Jones. Okay, so this will be the last one, guys. Let me see which one is the most original. Oh, actually, wait a second. I have to answer this one question. You guys all asked me. One of the most similar questions was, and I kind of partially answered it. Will Jon Jones' weight gain, his muscle gain, affect him in this fight? Now, a lot of you asked me this question, so I'm just going to touch on it again, and I'm going to answer it in a different way. Sometimes when you add muscle, it increases your endurance, and sometimes when you add muscle, it kills your endurance. Now, you don't see boxers put on bulk. You don't see boxers go spend months doing deadlifting and powerlifting and all that. You don't see them do that, and there's a reason for that. It doesn't help. People have tried it. Boxers are not crazy. Boxers have experimented with these things, and adding muscle was not really good for striking. It wasn't. You know, if it was true, the Thais would bulk up, the boxers would bulk up, the Dutch fighters would bulk up, the karate practitioners will all bulk up. The big guys, the guys who bulked up, lost. They got weeded out, so we kicked out that system. But in wrestling, you will see some wrestlers do weights. Not too much weights. Not too much weights that you bulk up heavily, but wrestlers will do weights. So in the wrestling realm, it's a wise choice. I think adding some strength training is a wise choice. And in MMA, there's a lot of wrestling. In this fight, there will be a lot of wrestling. So it'll help defend the takedowns more. It'll help lift your opponent more. It'll help you lock up and be stronger. It'll help you in that sense. When it comes to being loose and punching and kicking, it doesn't really help. You know, having that extra muscle doesn't really help. So if you anticipate a lot of wrestling in your match, by all means, lift weights. I think there needs to be some weightlifting in MMA. Absolutely. If a good wrestler grabs onto you and you've never lifted weights, you've never moved weights, you will get tired. So pros and cons to lifting. If you're primarily a striker, you don't need too much weights. You don't need too much weight, especially that traditional lifting. That's a waste of time. So if there's a lot of wrestling, it'll save Jon Jones on energy. If there's a lot of striking at a distance, it won't help much. So that is my answer to you guys. A lot of you are asking me my opinion on this. Did Jon Jones complement his lifting with track work? Did he complement it with lots of rounds of sparring, etc.? If he did, he should be fine. It shouldn't be even a concern. So I think he did this lifting months ahead. He has great trainers. They figured it out. They know about periodization. They did this far away from the fight. Now they're doing lots of strength and conditioning that is more oriented towards MMA, ballistic work, and they're doing a lot of rounds of sparring and wrestling and drilling. So I'm not too worried. But if they didn't do it, it should be a horrible mistake for them. So, okay, guys, I think I will make this the last one. This one is by Vicious. And he asks, thanks for the comment. Your channel is great. What excites you about this fight? What excites me about this fight is what's on the line. If Jon Jones wins this fight, he cements himself as the greatest lightweight fighter in the history of UFC. You know, he'll have probably defended the title more times than anyone else at this point. He will put on the biggest win streak in the history of the lightweight division, beating the biggest names. If Cormier can steal Jones's thunder and beat him, it will probably open up the avenue to the greatest rubber match in lightweight UFC history. So there's a lot on the line. You know, this will be huge for either guy. And if DC wins, he'll arguably be, I think he will be, in my opinion, he will be the greatest lightweight UFC fighter of all time. If he beats Jon Jones, not because he's beaten all these other guys, that is definitely a key element. You know, but Chuck Liddell's gone through. He also went through a string of names that were highly touted. But Jon Jones is the big fish in the lightweight division. If you take out Jon Jones, convincingly, if it's not a fluke, obviously, you know, and I don't think it would. If it's a fair and square win and Cormier wins, he will, in my opinion, arguably be the greatest lightweight UFC fighter in the history of that division because he took out the best guy. And it would open up the rubber match, epic rubber match. So when these two guys first matched up together, I was really excited about this fight. Now, I get excited about a lot of fights, but this one was in my top 5 favorite, most anticipated fights I've ever wanted to see. So if Cormier wins, I think it would be one of the most epic rubber matches in UFC history. So lots on the line. That's what excites me. These two guys have been extremely impressive in their careers. If you guys are asking me my pick, again, I'm picking Jon Jones. Yes, I have a bias. Yes, I used to work with him a lot, and I have a personal relationship with the guy. I think he's the better fighter nonetheless. I think he's more diverse, more versatile, and I think he has more tools, and that's going to make the difference. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all your questions and comments. I really appreciate all the likes, comments, and shares. Please make sure to like sharing this episode. As always, thank you very much, Quest Nutrition, for making these episodes possible. And I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you.